Welcome back to the G Pod, episode 3. My name's Zack. I'm here with my brother Nick. Nick, how's it going over there in Japan right now?
It's going good, guys. It's 9:47 a.m., my off day. Zach and I are filming a couple episodes today, so it's been a good morning so far.
How's it been back from Catch and Flow?
Feeling good, feeling mixed feelings. Oh my God, these kids are insane. Oh my God, I need to step up my game. All these things. It was good to see everybody again. It was good to see some foreigners that came. Good to see kids from across Japan that I don't get to see ever because we're so far away from each other. I'm just gonna say again, Naru. God, I love that kid. I love that. I love that family. I love seeing them so much. Really good to see him again and his family. And then just reunite with other people as well. The Sweets fam. Obviously, it was good to see us all together. And I don't know. It's just a good time being around other players. You got to see Isaac from I'll say Denmark now, right? Because he lives in Denmark.
Yeah.
Isaac Lotus. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to meet up with him as well and talk again.
Yeah, it was awesome to see you just watch the event and know that it was going on. I mean, it's a huge event, and although I've only been there once, I remember the energy, and it's just one of a kind. You're in a club. You're in literally an actual club, and you're doing freestyle on
Definitely
stage.
unique.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
unique.
It's definitely unique. People say it's a world championship. Honestly, I don't know. I just think KDBC is the only one real world championship just because the atmosphere, the whole event in itself is just crazy. It's huge. Catch and Flow is insane, but in a different way. It's just it's smaller. It's a lot smaller, and everyone's super packed in. You're in a club, and people are doing the craziest things on stage. Definitely one of the most hype freestyle competitions ever, though. Probably the most hype.
Yeah, definitely the most. It definitely
Yeah,
seems like it's definitely more of an entertainment thing.
yeah,
Um
100.
and especially with the level of play as well. Now we're kind of realizing like it's the performance aspect, but now people are flowing through really difficult lines, and they're flowing through lines, which is way different, and it's a absolute masterpiece to view as a spectator in terms of how it looks, how cool it looks, how entertaining it is, etc. And again, the level of these players are insane. And I think one thing I want to touch on today, and it's actually going to be the main topic of the podcast, is it plays a huge part into how good a player can get and the actually to express the full potential of a player in general. And that is going to be the importance of having a rival. This is huge in everything you do. This goes along with the environment aspect. Put yourself in an environment to succeed in any skill or anything you want to do with people who are better than you at it, or that encourages that skill that you want to hone. You're going to get better as a natural byproduct. The conscious effort that's going to be put in to get better is going to be less than if you were alone, and the unconscious progression is going to skyrocket.
If you honestly plan on getting as good as possible without a rival, good luck. Good luck doing that. Climbing up the ladder all by yourself. People often say, don't compare yourself to others. I know where they're coming from. And if you're just starting golf, I don't know, don't compare yourself to Tiger Woods. Don't compare yourself to the best guy on the varsity team in your high school, right? Don't need to do that. It's an unfair comparison. Don't compare yourself to me or Zach or any other player that's made it to the top of the game in Kendama when you're just starting out, when you've only been playing for a year, right? You don't need to do that if it's that unfair of a comparison. But when people are close to you and you are competitive with a person and the skill levels are relatively similar, there is no choice but to level each other up. Zach and I have been rivals for all of our 12 years playing Kendama together. I mean, just the other day, it doesn't even end. You'd think it end by now. We're separate. We live in separate places. I mean, just the other day, I told him I laced quad inward stilt barrel roll off camera, and I was so hyped to check off another trick off Kinamonomics. and then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've landed that. Nobody's ever done it before. The first time I've landed it, but it was off film, so I got to do it again. The next day, Zach literally just does it, films it, and posts it on Instagram. And I was like, okay, dude.
You can
Like,
check that on my Instagram. It's my second most recent Konami clip.
yep. And Zach, why did you think of filming that?
I legit would never have tried that if Nick didn't plant the seed in my head of the quadrant sub barrel roll. Kenomenomics put it in my head, but the fact that Nick did it, I instinctively was like, all right, I could probably hit that. Like I could probably hit that. I'm just gonna go for it. And I got it my first film session. It was epic, and that I wouldn't have ever tried if Nick would. I wouldn't have tried until Nick was like, "Hey, like I hit that." And I was like, "Okay, well, I now want to hit it too." And that just naturally happens. And I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew it was happening, but I didn't think about it just in the words I was saying. As soon as I read the text that Nick did it, I instinctively was like, "Oh, like oh, it's possible. Like let me go for that because I think I can do it too." And it's just these natural things, these natural incentives, right? That you get from having a rival like that. And there's so many examples of this as well. You look at Sulab. People know Sulab. It closed. The physical location closed down, but they still sell online. Look at the players coming out of that shop, coming out of Saitama Tokyo, Takuya, Mai, Hiroto. These three are the most popular players from Sulab because they're insane. They're absolutely insane, and they're playing together every single time, every single day. Maybe not every day, but definitely multiple times per week at that shop. And Sulab has some of the best players to ever come out of Japan. It's
Their whole
insane.
team
And
is actually really good.
yeah,
Just
their
on a
entire
skill level,
team.
they're all really good. Every single one is good.
And they might not be rivals in the sense where it's like, oh my gosh, that guy's my enemy. Like I'm going to like I gotta beat him. Like, oh my gosh, like we're not really friends. Like, of course, they're all probably at least on good terms with each other. At the very least, they all respect each other. If not, they're all friends. I can almost say that with certainty. But it's just the fact that they're there pushing each other. I'm sure when one of them lands a trick, they're like, "Oh my god!" They're like, I need to step it up too." And that entire environment of rivals in the same place, it just the level is skyrocketed there, and they're three of the best players in Japan right now. Then you look at other examples in the past too, 2018, 2019, 2017. Bryson, Nick, Liad, best players in the game, and they're definitely pushing each other. They're copying each other's tricks, one upping each other's tricks, posting. I mean, Nick, didn't you guys probably posted each other's feed tricks on each other's story, right? Like that definitely happened.
I definitely did that. I definitely would. I looked at one of Liad's tricks he did one time as a stilt trick. I was like, okay, stilts are kind of my thing. I kind of want to try this. And then he posted it on his feed. He was stoked about it. I was like, I want to see if I can do that. And I hit it incredibly quickly. And I was like, whoa, like I would have never tried that if Liad didn't post it, if it wasn't in my head. And it was just like, boom, check that off the list. What else? How can I one up that now? And same thing with Bryson. I mean, I always wanted to be when Bryson was coming up, I thought he was like this. Nobody was ever going to be better than him. In 2016, he was just so good. And 2017, it was weird that I was even remotely catching up to him in the slightest. And then, every time I saw one of his 28 tricks later. Granted, he had the best 28 tricks later that year for 2018. I always wanted to, try and do a better trick than him. Just having him there in general was just a good, even if I didn't think of it at the time, was just a huge influence on my game. Just playing every single day and wanting to try and beat not only him but also Liad as well, because I knew they were like, if I were to say I was number one, there was just no way, because I had to beat Bryson, had to beat Liad first before I could even consider that title. And being that close, obviously, when I'm only looking at the top, and Liad and Bryson were just there. So we were all pushing each other. I know we're all doing each other's tricks, taking inspiration, right? One-upping each other. But you see it now, even recently, right? I mean, Takuya, Tiblex, they got this good because of each other. Their tap wars, when they were racing to 50, I mean, that's literally how they got more taps. It's not because they wanted to go out and beat their own records every single day. Like, who really wants to do that, right? Who really wants to beat their own record unless it gets broken first, Only to a certain extent. But they kept breaking each other's records. Takuya takes it up. Tiblex comes back. They get to 42. Takuya hits, I think Takuya was the first one to hit 40. I think. And then Tiblex hit 42. And you know what he did the next week? He just said, screw it, I'm going to 50. And upped his taps by 8. It takes people a year to go up one tap. This guy did it. This guy went up 8 taps in maybe a week or two. And just so you know what? That's it. I'm done at 50 taps. I'm done chasing. Takuya had to struggle for a little while. He realized, well, 40 to 50. And now look at Takuya. He's done 66, I think. 64 or 66, one of those. But it would have never gotten that high if they didn't have each other to push, because who's really trying to do 60 plus taps on their own? It's not necessary, but to have that record, you have to have someone challenging you. That's the only reason they got up there. And look, they became the 2 best players in the whole world. Tiblex obviously right now isn't playing as much, but he's still better than 99% of players out there, I guarantee you. And Takuya is clearly number one on just raw skill. So
Yeah,
they got because of each other.
and you know everything that all the stories that Nick and I just said, Nick, I just told you guys, it's a great reflection of how a rivalry can increase performance. And something that happened with Nick, and I think this was a huge part of Nick's story, 2017, 2018, when Nick was really climbing through the ranks. He went through this experience in multiple ways. Nick, I want to ask you kind of what, who were your rivals and how did they impact your skill level and the overall increase in ability that you had throughout these years? Because I know it wasn't just me, because you surpassed me, like plain and simple. So you were looking for other inspiration as well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Especially during that time, it was super intense. I was playing all the time, but there were reasons for that. I wanted to become the best and I wanted to beat other players that were really good because it felt good. To be honest, I just mentioned Bryson and Liad during that time, right? I mentioned them, and I definitely don't want to say that Bonz wasn't in the equation. He was fully in the equation of best player because, right? I mean, he was still one of the best competitors of all time in that era, and just somebody I wanted to beat really bad. I actually didn't even end up beating Bonz at all until for the first time ever in my life in April 2018. That was the first time I'd ever beat him, and I wanted to beat him super bad. And so I guess for on a competitive aspect, I mean, Bonds is my biggest rival I've ever had. I mean, because I think that was just the turning point for both of our games in a sense. But just from my perspective, I mean, I played him in 2018. I didn't just play him in competition, but I played him in finals, six times. Six times. We both always ended up making it to the end and playing each other in the finals every single time. The first time I actually played him was April 2018, and I played him in the semis at Sakura Classic, and he beat me. And this competition was double elim, and I was really sad because I was like, damn, like I really wanted to beat this guy. I beat him in freestyle the day before, but I really wanted to beat him one on one. And then I had to climb back from losers bracket. I think I beat George, and then I went back to the finals to play Bonds because of course he made it. You know, Bonds to a lot of people back then was kind of this unstoppable force, and I wanted to beat him really bad. And I ended up doing something I thought wasn't possible for myself. I came back from losers and I beat him not once, but twice to win the entire thing. And at that moment, it's like, whoa, you can beat this guy. And then we ended up playing the next month. And then a couple months after that. And the next month again. And then at the end of the year, I catch him in the finals again. You know, I didn't beat him every single time. I think I beat him 4 times out of 6. But just to have someone like that always at an event, right? You don't want to lose to that person. It kind of gets you on edge a little bit. You know, you see them come, you're like, God damn it, again. You're like, again, this guy's here. Like, I have to play this dude again. It's like, of course you don't want to lose to him, right? But it makes you play your best. I mean, I did some incredible things playing Bonds. I think in Dom in the D 2018, we went back and forth 3 for 3 on the hardest trick in the list. It was one turn lighthouse, insta triple inward lighthouse slip in. And in a game, we drew that trick and we matched it, got it 3 for 3 every time. And it was just incredible. There was no way I thought I would be able to do that, but I think Bonds was up there, and that helped me just channel it in because I was like, I really don't want to lose to this guy. And it really made me hone in on competing because if I knew I had to win, I knew I had to beat Bonds, and Bonds was incredibly tough to beat. So that was that year. And I will say when it got more 2019 online, I guess I definitely
Wait, I'd
want
like
to.
to interject real quick. How was your relationship with Bonds?
Oh yeah, it was generally just like a rivalry. It was we weren't even close friends. Like we weren't even talking at events. We talk said what up. Obviously, you go to that many events with each other, going to the same events all the time. It's like, yeah, like obviously we have familiarity with each other, and I've known him for years, ever since I started playing, right? Since he started playing 2013. I knew him since I was a kid, and he was already the best back then, right? He had won the world championships the next year, 2014. And anyway, kept playing him. But we were never hanging out. You know, we're two completely different people. I was 18. He was well into his 20s. Definitely a huge partier. I wasn't about that life, and just took us down different paths during at events on the way we acted and who we surround ourselves with. And when it just came to comp time, it's just like, okay, now we got to go. And then we face each other in finals. Like, well, here we are again. And that's all we'd say to each other. And then just, we'd both be trying our absolute best to beat each other's ass. That's like, it's like, there was no better feeling than beating him. And I know for him, there was no better feeling than him beating me because I had beaten him for 6 months straight until he beat me again. And I could tell, I mean, obviously that it's a great feeling, right? To overcome that. Um, yeah, we were just rivals, legitimately rivals. I think that was the most pure definition of a rival I've ever had in Kendama was Bonz for me. I've had Liam, I've had Liam Rauter. Um, I think, and not in skill level, but I think in terms of competition, we were very close. Um, I think, I think Liam and I have played numerous times. If you include all the online versions of competitions, we've been played so many times over, and he was always somebody I loved to beat. And obviously, he was because he was so good at competing, and I wanted to beat the best competitors. And I think he definitely played a role in me trying to be on my game. Definitely pushed me in the open field, and then also um, Nobu, Nori from Konami USA. Um, while my record is undefeated against him, which we used to be something I looked at and was like, oh, this is sweet. I don't think of it much anymore, but I think I've played him like 5 or 6 times, and I've fortunately never lost him once. But just to be clear, it wasn't always a landslide battle. Obviously a lot of battles were really close. He gave me my most intense match at MKO 2016, NAKO 2016. He was one of the best competitors there, one of the best competitors for many years, and I had to play him a lot, and it was never easy. But just these people being there at events, just making me want to, and knowing that they were going right. I mean, you have to be on your A game, and when you go up against somebody really good, sometimes it brings the best out of you. And so, I definitely think all these people I just mentioned played a really big factor into me not only winning things, but just being consistent and getting to the level of skill that I am at right now.
Yeah, 100%. Liam's a great competitor. Obviously, Bonds was like regarded as the goat of Kendama back in those years. So for you to really step up and take wins over him as many times as you did was huge because that's no easy feat. That was nobody was beating him except for you. So that was huge. And yeah, honestly, Liam has amazing track record too. I put Liam in my comp rivals as well. I played him numerous times, and we've had our fair share of wins and losses against each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as my rivals go, I'd say, you know, my main. I honestly the only rival I'd ever imagine me having, like I don't that really sticks out in my mind, is actually you, Nick, and that for me has really, really, really pushed my game. Of course, in the increased performance realm, but in the next topic as well, the benchmark for success. I had a very well, first of all, when you kind of have players who are pushing you and that you're pushing, you tend to forget about kind of what while the other players are doing. You kind of just start paying way less attention. Nick kind of touched on this already when he was talking about Liad and Bryson. He's kind of their players towards the top, and all of a sudden Nick's pretty much just looking at those two for inspiration, motivation, incentive to go harder and push harder. For me, I always was playing 24/7 with Nick Gallagher, the best player in the world, and since 2017, 2018, and in those years, I already said it, he reached a new level that I hadn't reached yet, and he was just on another level, on another planet than my skill level, which felt like it happened overnight, but was reality. In reality, was the byproduct of many, 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 many hours that he was putting in that I wasn't. And because of that whole experience, I actually felt like I had a kind of chip on my shoulder, because I was like the Gallagher that was worse at Kendama. And I don't know like how everybody else perceived it, but that's just how I perceived it myself. I'm sure I was probably the only one perceiving it like that in a negative sense, in like a very negative way. Um, but anyways, regardless, my whole rival in my head was Nick, because my benchmark of success of really achieving something great in Kendama was based off what he was doing. And for other players, I'd say this is a very unique experience. We kind of went back in the podcast saying, don't compare yourself to the best player when you're like a beginner. Like obviously when you begin swimming, you're not going to want to compare yourself to Michael Phelps. It's just not smart. It just doesn't make any sense at all. For me, you could argue that Nick was on a different level, so I shouldn't compare myself to him. But it's kind of a different thing. It's hard to not compare yourself to your identical twin brother who shares the same hobby as you and
Mm.
you've been playing with for all time. So that's why I had him in my mind as like my main rival. I just couldn't, we're always playing together. And so because of that, every trick I posted, every achievement that I hit, I never I never felt fully satisfied. My mindset was always constantly like, what's next? What else can I do? What other trick am I going to hit? Because I was seeing the best competitor play at the highest level and win competitions all the time, and then him also posting the best, just some of the hardest tricks ever done. And he's like my brother. And I'm playing with him in person every single day, and so I get to see that in person. Plus all the tricks he's letting online. I'm going to be extremely motivated. And now my standard has risen to that level. Is it risen or risen? I'm not really sure, but it's risen to that level. And now my benchmark for success has gone higher and higher and higher. And that made me push harder. That made me go harder than I ever would have by myself. And I think there's value in kind of looking back and observing and analyzing your accomplishments and kind of reminding yourself like, yeah, like I did this shit. Like I did that. I got that in the bag. Like that was really cool. Like, oh man, I really did these things. I really proved to myself that I can achieve this type of greatness. There's value in that for sure, but I think a rival. I mean, if you spend too much time doing that, you're never going to grow, right? If you always stay back and look back at the success you've had, you're never going to keep the advancement you're going to make forward is going to pale in comparison to, let's say, if you have a rival or if you have a motivation or incentive to keep going, and that's what rivals provide. Nick being a benchmark for success for me never made me satisfied, or never always made me hungry to keep going, and always made me unconsciously hungry. It was never like, oh man, I'm forcing myself to do this. No, it was always just naturally like, let's go. Like there's another level, there's another level, there's another level. And I knew there was another level because I could vividly see it in front of my face every single day we played Kendama. So for me, that was really, really important in my development as a player, I'd say. Um, Starting out, you know, Nick kept me in Kendama. We kept each other in Kendama because all our friends quit. And, later in the later years where I was comfortable playing without him every single day, because then situations change. We go to college. We're not playing with each other every single day. We're playing with them frequently, but not every single day. But, I'm there. I'm at a point where even though we're not playing each other in person every single day, I'm still motivated because I still see Nick killing it. And he's still in the same vicinity, but the same college, and all these things. Just being around Nick all the time, having him as my main rival, really made my benchmark for success super high, and really made me push the limits of my game to places where I legitimately never thought I would reach.
This transitions into the next point, accountability, right? I mean, Zack was held accountable, but not like we're checking in on each other. Hey, did you play enough today? Hey, did you film today? Like we weren't doing that. No, it's just that's not the accountability we're kind of talking about here. That is a factor. That's a good thing to throw in, but it's more unconscious, like Zack said, right? I mean, you don't want to be the one left behind. You don't want to be the one like feeling like you're slacking off. When you see someone else pushing and you care enough to push too, it's like you don't want to be you don't want them to put more effort than you. You want to be up there too. You want to know that you're putting in just as much effort as they are or more. You never want to be thinking about like, oh man, like he filmed to get today again, like he played today again, like I'm not playing. Like no one, if this person's really that rival to you and you really care to step up your game, you're not going to slack. And this is why rivals hold each other accountable, right? You don't need the daily check-ins, the texts. You don't even need all that. Obviously, sometimes it plays a part, but you don't need that. Zack and I weren't checking in on each other at all. We were just, it was just by face value. It was just by like, hey, we know this guy's getting after it. I need to get after it as well. Doesn't matter if it was busy times, busy competitions. Doesn't matter if there was no competitions in front of the camera, off the camera. It doesn't matter. We were just always kind of going back and forth, and I'm glad we had that relationship. I'm glad we still have that with everything now, right? I mean, Zack and I, even in exercise and working out, we're always trying to see what else we can do with our bodies, see how we can improve our movement, see how we can improve the weights we pull, the weights we push. And I know for a fact, having competition, imagining, gamifying it, right? Zack posts something oh, just did this amount of weighted chin-ups or X amount of, weighted dips. It's like, okay, like I'm gonna have to try and beat that, if we're close, of course, if we're close in a lift or something like that. It's like it feels good. It's like, oh, why did I even think of trying to up this amount of weight? Oh, it's because Zack did it first. And now I'm gonna one up it. And then you one up it. And then Zack sees it. Okay, now I know there's more, give. Zack gets that, ties it, ups it. And it's a reset. It's something that, continues and continues with not just Kendama, but a lot of different things. And I think it's very, as long as the relationship is healthy, it's definitely just I'm just going to say a shortcut to improving a lot faster than other
It's a
people.
cheat code.
It's a cheat code. And that's why I always think having Zack in my life is a legitimate cheat code in my life. I think it's just unfair. I think it's just the biggest blessing ever. I will say, for accountability, I mean, Bryson, Johnny, and us, we're very, very, very close. We'd always talk about competition, like, oh, hopefully we do well. It'd be sick to make top 8 again. Like there was one year we made top 8, and
That was hype.
in AKO, that was super hype. We were super close to making top 4. We're so close, just us. That'd be so cool.
Well, did we really get close to that?
Yeah, because that year I won, and then Bryson got second, and then you got third, and then Johnny,
Oh,
you had
yeah.
to be, yeah, you just beat Johnny in top 8. So
Oh no.
we're so close. But yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes with other friends, like who also want to do a good competition, right? You practice with them, right? You want to call them because they're not in person to see you. You want to call them, get your practice session in, just play. That's accountability right there. And we know that these people are going to be really good on the day of, right? They're going to be people that you're not going to be stoked to go up against at first because it's like, oh crap, like I have to go against a really good player right now. These are the players, right? You see Johnny, you see Bryson, you see Zack. I look at all of them like, all right, got to really try here. It's not a freebie. And it's because I know they put in the work and I know I put in the work. So it's just a matter of who's better on the day of. But they just keep us accountable, right? They keep us accountable practicing up until that point. And yeah, just accountability all over, which is having a rival. It's huge.
Yeah. And of course, Nick's already said it, but you can apply this to anything, any skill, any interest that you're in life. Having someone to do it with you and, you know, be your rival, be there for you and to push you, and you're pushing each other unconsciously and consciously. It's a beautiful experience, and you connect with this person in some way, but you're there for each other's like fire within each other. You're stoking a flame within each other to improve. And I'm gonna keep going back to this. The unconscious effort is insane. The conscious effort is so low in comparison to if you were to do it yourself. When you're reaching these levels by yourself, guys, you're consciously playing. The conscious level is going to be higher because you're gonna be like, all right, I'm playing today. Like I'm doing this. If you really want to get better, I'm gonna grind a couple hours a day. I'm gonna film and edit. I'm gonna do this, do that, and you consciously put forth the effort. But when you have an environment, when you have a rival, you the flame gets stoked within you automatically as a byproduct of what they're doing. So even though you might not be realizing it, this has happened so many times where Nick's been playing Kendama and I see him do a trick, and I just go ahead and grab my Kendama and start playing. When I otherwise wouldn't have. When I otherwise would have been scrolling on my phone, would have been, doing whatever, playing video games, something else. But if I see Nick play Kendama or see somebody else at an event play Kendama and do an insanely hard trick, and I just start trying that trick, right? I just start trying that trick, and if I land it or not, or I get close, I'm now trying something that I wouldn't have tried before. I wouldn't have. There's no way. But it just naturally happens because you see it, you take that information, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to get that person get better than me, or like maybe I can do that too. It's that competitiveness within you as well. And all these things, this incentive, this fire, it's amazing from having a rival. And in this next part, I want to go over how to find a rival. It's pretty easy, actually. It's pretty easy. One, identify what you don't even have to be actually in the same exact niche or interest or skill. People are probably rivals across different sports. This person could be like a bowler, and another person could be a soccer player. And if they see each other's success, they want to succeed too. It's that easy. But the main things are, one, compete. If you're competing, rivals will come to you. You won't have to find them. They'll just come to you because you're going to naturally face off against people who are near your skill level or higher, and you're gonna find matches and compete against people who are going to challenge you. They're going to really challenge you, and these people are going to become your rivals, whether you like it or not, naturally. Compete as much as you can. Online comps, in-person comps, compete as much as possible. And that goes for anything, not just Kendama. If you want to find a rival in any interest, do that. Number two, get involved with the community online. This is where you're going to see a ton of players. You can see anybody. You can see any player, and any player who's even good at all is going to have an account, right? I mean, I'm really confident in saying that because if a player doesn't have a social media account and is really good, and they started without a social media account and they never had one and then deleted it or whatever, that's pretty much once in a lifetime, because how are they going to get inspiration from, other people? How are they going to get inspiration or what's possible in Kendama? So get online, involved with the online community, meet players, connect with players. You're going to be challenged by them, by the tricks they're posting. Everybody's posting their best. So you're going to be posting your best too. You're going to be wanting to post your best. Everybody else is trying hard, and you're going to be naturally wanting to try hard too. You see that all the time. Lastly,
You're not.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You're not going to actually. I mean, Zack said it's pretty easy to find a rival. It is really easy because you don't even have to try that hard to look. You don't even have to want to look. Your brain is just going to tell you who's going to be your rival immediately. Oh, this guy's posting a lot. Oh, something about him bugs you. Oh, but he's really good. Oh, confirmed. You just got that guy now is just under your skin. That guy now is on your radar, right? Now it's like, can I one up this dude? Oh, I did. Sweet. He comes back. He ones up you. He one ups you, right? And maybe there's no communication with you guys. Maybe there's like you guys aren't even talking. It doesn't even matter. You don't even have to talk. Like there's just going to be someone in the community, either close to you or online or far away in some aspect that's just going to just attract you more than those other players for some reason, right? Not every player you're going to look at and be like, I need to be better than this guy. There's always going to be one person or maybe a handful that you look at and you're like, all right, like this guy, like I'm going to one up this person today, and it's going to happen, right? Or someone's going to be under your skin a little bit. You're not going to like this person for some reason. Okay, well now it's game on. Now it just got competitive for no reason. And that's perfectly okay because competition fuels success and it fuels improvement. So you might not even have to try to look. You can ask someone straight up. You can ask somebody, be like, hey, let's be rivals. It might work out, it might not, because the unconscious drive has to be there. You have to be actually wanting, whether you like it or not, to be better than this person. Something has to like just urge. You just have to have the urge. So you can ask someone to be your rival, but it's probably going to happen naturally, and you don't have to worry about it. You're just going to identify somebody before you know it. It's going to happen unconsciously.
It's amazing. It's a healthy thing. Competing is a healthy thing, and it's amazing. It brings out the best in everybody. It plays a huge part in that. I truly believe that. Last point on how to find a rival, I would say just get involved in your local community. It's more real if you find a player who you can kind of compete against in person. It makes it way more real. Nick and I saw this a lot at the University of Washington Kendama jams. People push each other's levels because they're playing each other, like giving each other dominaires. Our one of our really good friends, Max, I remember talking to him and he's like, with UW Kendama, like he would see somebody post a trick and be like, dude, like, I want to hit that. I want to hit that. I want to do better than that. He would say that. He'd be like, I want to just shit on that. Like, of course, it's just in good. It's just, it's not like this. Max is like hating these people. Like, there's no dislike going on at all. It's that competitiveness, it's the competitive. So people pushing each other. And now look at the levels of these players. Everybody in UW Kendama used to be a beginner. Now we have Trevor doing around 7 jumping stick. Max did a quad lunar around. He did around 8.
Yeah.
All right. He should win trick. He should win trick of the year. Max did quad lunar barrel roll. He's like 2 years in. Like Sahir is doing was doing crazy tricks too. Drew from the UW Kendama Jam, Grant. All these players are doing tricks that legit I never thought they would ever be able to do. I just didn't think they were. It's so funny. You see players come from a beginner level, and you kind of just, it doesn't happen overnight. But you kind of one day you kind of just look back and you're like, damn, did I just blink and they just got 5 times better? It's amazing, and that happened way faster for them because they had each other to push each other. They had that competitive environment, whether they were aware of it or not, in person, and that made it really powerful. So that was really cool to watch. So if you have a local community, get involved in the local community. At first, of course, as we've been saying, rivals just happen naturally. goal is just connect. But if you can, compete and get on a healthy competitive level with these guys, or girls, it's going to be amazing.
The last point we are going to touch on is just to be aware if it's negative or not, right? Obviously, there are people who hate each other out there, like big competitors in different sports, and they're rivals, and they legitimately hate each other, but it's feeling their competitive drive and it works, right? But you don't want to be, say, we'll just say UW Kendama, for example. You don't want to like everybody's friends at UW Kendama, to my knowledge, and they all want to one up each other. Obviously, some are closer to the others than not. And yeah, just as Max was saying, yeah, he wanted to be top, top player at UW. He's told me that before. Trevor's doing these insane tricks now, around eight jumping stick. But you don't want to exactly hate the person.
Yeah,
Or
like it
come
would
to
be weird if they hated each other. Like, like if they all
right,
hated
like you
each
don't
other.
like you don't want to like because now you're messing up the whole vibe of the whole jam around with others around you, and it's just that's not the energy that people want to be around. If it's making you want to quit Kendama or making you really discouraged, and that'll usually just come from someone else, like one of the people in that rivalry, kind of just getting up in your face and kind of just saying unnecessary things and kind of making fun and doing these things, right? That's all unnecessary. It's supposed to be a healthy, competitive relationship where you guys are one up in each other, no problem in that. But you're also, if you don't even have to say anything, but it's cool to be stoked for the other person when if they catch up to you or one up you, or it's okay to be pissed. It's okay to be like, oh, now I have to go at it again. That's still healthy. You just don't want to be having a negative attitude towards that person or like literally wanting to not be their friend. I feel like it has to be pretty out of the way to make it negative, but it does happen sometimes, and you just got to be careful about that.
Yeah, and you'll know. Like you'll know. Just
You'll know.
if you yeah. I think the bottom line, Nick and Bonz weren't really friends and never really have been, but they had respect for each other. Bottom line
Right.
is, in all of our rivalries, mine, Nick's in Kendama and outside of Kendama, the respect has been there. The mutual respect. If people, because look, like two people may not gel well, but they're going to be aware that they're pushing each other. They're going to be aware that they're pushing each other, and because of that fact, they're being pushed by each other. They're acknowledging and respecting the other person's skill. They may not get along, but they have that respect for each other because they're the ones pushing. They're the ones that are really competing against. They're the ones that they have each other's eyes out for, and yeah. So at the very bottom line of rivalry, like you got to like the respect is there, and if it's not there, then I don't know. You just guys are like enemies. You have a bad relationship. Probably shouldn't be talking. you know. Yeah, as long as the respect is there, you're good.
Guys, those were a couple tips on how the importance of a rival really plays into the improvement of your skill, improvement of your drive, and the motivation, everything, and all the benefits that come with it. I do want to say that even if you do think that somebody who's getting after by themselves and has done a lot of their success, a lot of the things by themselves, cool. Well, even if you may fall into that category, and you may be that one person in your area who's doing something to a high caliber, well, just know that you could be a lot better if you had another person to drive with you. That's about it, guys. That's about it. It's incredible to have a rival, and it will always be a benefit. When you find one, you'll know. You don't even have to look. One might just appear in front of you one day, and you're going to get after it a lot harder, whether you know it or not. It's going to help.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for today on the topic of the importance of having a rival. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys want to see us talk about anything else, any topic suggestions, let us know. We'd be happy to provide insight. And yeah, guys, we have a lot of great ideas to come and a lot of special guests to come. So stay tuned and have an amazing rest of your day. See you guys
See you
later.
guys in the next one. Later.